What if the unthinkable happens? The heart of a nation's intelligence is breached in a single, devastating moment. Picture the scene. A cold, clear night in Kyiv. The city's skyline glimmers with electronic defenses, a mesh of radars and missile launchers humming beneath the surface calm. Yet, beneath this layer of security, a different kind of war is being waged. A war of shadows, secrets, and survival. For years, the headquarters of Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, known as GUR, stood as more than a hive of spies. It was the nerve center of Ukraine's ambitions, commanding sabotage, cyber strikes, and psychological operations far behind enemy lines. The building itself was a modern labyrinth, with multiple security perimeters, reinforced concrete, biometric checkpoints, and a warren of underground tunnels stretching like veins beneath the city. It was a fortress, both in the literal and figurative sense. By the year 2025, GUR had transformed. No longer just a Cold War vestige, it became a hybrid powerhouse, fused with NATO and Western intelligence. Its operators matched the West's best, wielding real-time battlefield data and advanced weaponry, making GUR a key player in the shadow war raging across Eastern Europe. In fact, Western military attachés often remarked that GUR's field operatives rivaled even the most elite NATO Special Forces units, not only in their tactical prowess, but in their mastery of asymmetric warfare. This distinction came at a price. GUR was not only crucial, it was irreplaceable. Its leadership, technology, and secrets made it a bullseye for adversaries. A breach here could cripple months, or even years, of carefully laid plans, with fallout rippling far beyond the Ukrainian front. The value of information passing through GUR's encrypted servers was inestimable. Battlefield data, intercepted communications, and political intelligence flowed through its veins, making it the brain and central nervous system of Ukraine's defense. If such a fortress, protected by cutting-edge systems and international alliances, can be shattered overnight, what does that say about the safety of any intelligence command? No stronghold is truly invulnerable. The destruction of GUR's headquarters did not just break walls, it shattered illusions, redrawing the boundaries of deterrence and risk for modern warfare. The event echoed in every capital, from Washington to Brussels, prompting late-night emergency meetings and frantic reviews of their own security protocols. To understand how this fortress was toppled, and why its fall reverberates far beyond Ukraine, we must first uncover the story of GUR's rise and its defining role in the new era of conflict. The rise of GUR began years before the night its walls fell. To grasp the scale of what was lost, we must trace its evolution from secretive agency to hybrid war engine. Imagine a chessboard, where every piece moves not just according to classic rules, but with new, unpredictable powers. GUR was the grandmaster, rewriting the game as it played. How does an old-school intelligence agency transform into the nerve center of modern hybrid war? For decades, the Ukrainian main intelligence directorate, GUR, was known for classic espionage. But by late 2025, it had become something altogether different. The mastermind behind sabotage, pinpoint drone strikes, and psychological operations that reached deep into Russian territory and mines. To put this in perspective, consider the transformation of the British MI6 during the Second World War. Initially focused on human intelligence, MI6 had to rapidly adapt to technological advances, radio, ciphers, code breaking at Bletchley Park, just as GUR evolved to harness cyber warfare, drones, and real-time satellite intelligence. The shift was not just in technologies, but in mindset. GUR officers became adept at blending old-school tradecraft with bleeding-edge tech. No longer just gathering secrets, GUR orchestrated the bombings of the Crimean Bridge and daring raids that struck hundreds of kilometers beyond Ukraine's borders. Its operatives sabotaged railways, assassinated Russian officers, and ran relentless information campaigns designed to fracture public trust and destabilize Moscow from within. Their reach was global, their tactics ever-evolving. A concrete example. In the summer of 2024, A GUR-led operation disabled dozens of Russian military freight trains simultaneously across 3 different regions. The action paralyzed logistics, delayed troop movements, and sowed confusion, an echo of the French resistance's legendary railway sabotage during the D-Day preparations in 1944. What made GUR truly formidable was its seamless integration with NATO command. Through these channels, GUR gained access to Western surveillance technology, precision-guided weaponry, and advanced data analysis tools. Its officers trained to NATO standards, elite saboteurs, analysts, and operators of complex systems. Replacing a lost GUR specialist was no simple task. Each one embodied years of expertise and strategic value. Each officer was the product of multi-year cross-training programs, joint exercises in Germany, and language immersion courses in the UK and US. Some analysts spent years embedded in tech incubators, learning to weaponize artificial intelligence for battlefield advantage. The GUR headquarters in Kyiv stood as a 21st-century fortress. Layers of hardened security, sprawling underground bunkers, and the country's most advanced air defense shielded the nerve center. Inside, the agency's staff and digital infrastructure formed a web of command that directed asymmetric warfare on a scale never before seen in Eastern Europe. The command room resembled the nerve center of a sci-fi starship, with wall-to-wall screens, live drone feeds, and a digital map of the Eastern Front, constantly updated by hundreds of sensors and informants. Letting GUR operate unchecked posed a threat not only to Russian military assets, but also to the critical infrastructure and political stability of entire nations. Each operation risked eroding public confidence, undermining defenses, and shifting the balance of power in ways no one could fully anticipate. In one instance, GUR was suspected of orchestrating a cyber attack that crippled a major Russian financial institution for several days, causing panic among investors and triggering emergency measures in Moscow. Striking GUR could not be about revenge alone. To breach this fortress required intelligence on an unprecedented scale, mapping every defense, identifying every vulnerability, and striking at the precise moment when the odds tipped in the attacker's favor. The stakes were immense: break the enemy's will to wage hybrid war, or risk ceding strategic control for years to come. History offers parallels: the Israeli raid on Entebbe in 1976, the U.S. SEAL Team 6 operation against Osama bin Laden, the Stuxnet cyber attack on Iran's nuclear program. Each required months, sometimes years, of interdisciplinary intelligence, planning, and risk. But brute force would never be enough. Toppling GUR demanded the fusion of espionage, technology, and perfect timing, a new form of conflict where information itself became the deadliest weapon. In this chess game, a pawn could become a queen if moved at the right time, with the right intelligence. Yet behind these walls, GUR's confidence bordered on hubris. Few believed that any adversary, let alone Russia, could ever breach what was seen as the stronghold of Ukraine's resistance. Security briefings often ended with reassurances. "We are the most protected building in Eastern Europe." Some insiders joked that even a direct meteor strike would bounce off the headquarters' reinforced roof. Can perfect intelligence guarantee flawless execution? This was the dilemma gripping Russian planners as they targeted the war's most coveted prize, the headquarters of Ukraine's main intelligence directorate. The road to this strike was paved not with missiles, but with relentless espionage. For months, Russian agencies infiltrated Ukrainian state structures, leveraging embedded agents, private contractors, and even compromised elements within the security forces. Every schematic, personnel file, and maintenance record was gathered, double-checked, and verified through overlapping sources. Spies posed as janitors, IT contractors, or delivery drivers, each feeding small pieces of the puzzle back to Moscow. But human assets were only the beginning. Electronic surveillance blanketed the headquarters, intercepting communications, tracing data flows, and charting electromagnetic signatures with advanced sensors. High above, satellites orbited restlessly, snapping ultra-high-resolution images and radar scans that revealed evolving entry points and the subtle repositioning of air defenses. Russian intelligence employed artificial intelligence algorithms to detect even the smallest pattern change, a new antenna here, a shipment of concrete there, that might indicate a shift in defenses. All streams of intelligence, human, electronic, and orbital, converged into a living digital twin of the GUR fortress. It was more than a static model. It pulsed with real-time updates on bunker thickness, server locations, guard routines, and the choreography of signal jammers. Even the smallest lapse in security protocols was mapped and analyzed. This digital twin allowed Russian planners to run thousands of simulated attacks, searching for the precise combination of weapons and timing that would guarantee success. Armed with this unprecedented insight, the planners faced a final constraint: time. The GUR's leadership shrouded itself in secrecy, its movements unpredictable. Yet analysts uncovered a fleeting opportunity: a clandestine meeting in early November, bringing together Ukrainian and Western intelligence chiefs to orchestrate new covert operations. This rare convergence offered a tantalizing target, but carried its own dangers. Kyiv, on edge, had tightened citywide defenses to their limit. Ironically, in rushing to shield the capital, commanders stripped resources from the GUR's own perimeter. The result? A brief, dangerous window where the headquarters stood exposed when its importance was greatest. This mirrors historical moments such as the German Ardennes offensive in 1944, when Allied focus on one front left another vulnerable. Every step in this plan courted disaster. A single mistake could shatter not just the mission, but the secrecy of Russian spy networks, or even trigger uncontrolled escalation between nuclear rivals. Yet, if they succeeded, the blow would cripple Ukraine's ability to wage hybrid war and echo for years across the region. Failure meant more than embarrassment. It meant the possible unmasking of Russian assets worldwide, as happened after the failed coup against Hitler in July 1944. But knowledge alone was not enough. The next challenge: to pierce every barrier, physical and digital, and deliver a strike from which the enemy could not recover. For the Russian team, the moment of truth had arrived. Their arsenal was ready, but to succeed, they needed a weapon as precise and unpredictable as the intelligence that guided it. What kind of weapon can tear open a shield costing billions of dollars, slicing through layers of Western air defenses in mere seconds? For years, Kyiv stood as a symbol of invincibility, its skies protected by a mesh of American Patriots, German Iris-Ts, and French SAMP-Ts, each system worth more than the annual economy of some nations, all fused into a digital fortress above the capital. Combined, these systems formed a defensive shield rivaling those of Washington, D.C. or Tel Aviv. Conventional cruise missiles and even supersonic threats had fallen short. Their signatures were exposed, their trajectories tracked, and their payloads intercepted long before impact. Above Kyiv, a new kind of aerial chess unfolded, one where speed, stealth, and electronic trickery ruled the night. Yet the Western shield had a hidden weakness. It was built for yesterday's enemies, not for the unpredictable weapons of tomorrow. Enter the Kinjal. Russia's hypersonic Dagger missile does not just break the rules, it rewrites them. Traveling at more than 10 times the speed of sound, it darts across the sky with erratic, unpredictable maneuvers. Unlike traditional ballistic missiles, the Kinjal can alter its course mid-flight, weaving to evade tracking and interception. Its warhead is engineered to smash through reinforced concrete and deeply buried bunkers, the very kind of targets Kyiv believed were safe beneath its shield. To appreciate the leap, consider the transition from the V-2 rockets of World War II, unstoppable but imprecise, to today's hypersonic weapons, which combine speed with uncanny accuracy. The Kinjal's guidance system can make micro-adjustments in flight, making it almost impossible for traditional air defense systems to calculate its true trajectory. But brute force was not the only strategy at play. The operation began with Russian electronic warfare teams saturating the airwaves. Radars were jammed, guidance systems were spoofed, and command posts found themselves suddenly blind. In tandem, swarms of decoy drones and obsolete missiles flooded the sky, each mimicking the radar and infrared signatures of a genuine threat. Ukrainian interceptor crews, forced to respond, wasted precious missiles on these phantoms, draining their magazines shot by shot. A comparable approach was used in the 1973 Yom Kippur War, when coordinated Israeli and Egyptian electronic jamming blinded each other's radars, leading to confusion and chaos in the skies. In this case, Russia took it further, using the fog of war as a weapon in itself. Then, at the moment of maximum confusion, the real attack commenced. Multiple Kinzhals, launched from high-altitude bombers cruising well beyond the reach of Ukrainian airspace, streaked toward their target. Some approached from unexpected angles, others dove nearly vertical, all timed to hit within seconds of each other. Kiev's air defenses, so carefully constructed and meticulously maintained, were breached in the blink of an eye. Operators could only watch as the world's fastest missiles overwhelmed every safeguard. This was not just a tactical win, it was a show of force, a display of how rapidly evolving technology in the hands of ruthless planners can shatter the old order overnight. The risks were colossal. Unveiling such advanced systems risked letting NATO adversaries study their secrets, or even inviting direct retaliation. Still, the potential reward, a decisive shift in the balance of power, was worth the gamble. When the dust cleared over the demolished GUR headquarters, one lesson was impossible to ignore. No fortress, no matter how high-tech, is truly invulnerable when the rules of war are rewritten. With Kiev's shield pierced and its intelligence hub reduced to rubble, the aftershocks were immediate. Ukraine's ability to conduct hybrid operations was crippled, and leaders in every allied capital were forced to confront a chilling new reality. Absolute security is an illusion, and the next leap in warfare could upend everything they trust. NATO convened emergency sessions, intelligence agencies scrambled to audit their own defenses, and cybersecurity experts warned of potential follow-up attacks on digital infrastructure. But the story of the GUR strike did not end with the rubble. In its aftermath, both sides scrambled to adapt, each searching for ways to regain the upper hand before the next war-changing move. Western nations began accelerated research into counter-hypersonic defenses, while Russia celebrated what it saw as a validation of its military doctrine. When the center collapses, what remains of a war effort, or the myth that shielded it? The obliteration of Ukraine's main intelligence Directorate headquarters was not merely a strike on concrete and steel. Within minutes, encrypted networks, satellite uplinks, and the entire lattice of clandestine warfare were consumed by fire and shockwaves. Where once covert teams orchestrated sabotage, drone raids, and psychological gambits, now there was only ruin, a single precise blow severing the nation's secret nerve. In Kyiv, confusion swept in like a winter storm. Senior commanders and planners vanished, leaving behind a void where leadership, continuity, and trust had stood. State broadcasters scrambled to conceal the scope, but Western partners, blindsided and unsure, failed to project unity or resolve. The silence of lost voices echoed louder than official statements. This was a wound that ran deeper than lost infrastructure. Years of cultivated expertise, encrypted archives, and institutional memory simply vanished. Survivors, stunned by the scale of devastation, wrestled with dread and disbelief. The aura of invincibility, so carefully constructed, dissolved overnight. Sabotage networks stalled. Operations unraveled mid-mission, leaving agents cut off and assets exposed. The once relentless psychological campaigns against Russia flickered out, as planners and field operatives were erased along with their playbooks. It mirrored the aftermath of the Soviet KGB's collapse in the early 1990s, when years of intelligence infrastructure evaporated, leaving chaos in its wake. Power shifted, decisively, to Russia. Where Ukraine's hybrid tactics once dictated the tempo, now Russian forces advanced unopposed, shaping not just battlefields, but the narrative itself. Control over escalation, information, and initiative now belonged to Moscow. Russian media spun the event as the ultimate proof of Western vulnerability, while social networks filled with rumors, misinformation, and fear. For Ukraine and its Western partners, this was a brutal lesson. Technological prowess and sophisticated command are never absolute shields. Underestimating the fragility of even the most advanced defense can invite catastrophe, rapid, total, and irreversible. For every adversary observing, it was a warning written in fire. Resting on the laurels of yesterday's innovation is a path to annihilation. Yet the aftermath of this strike would not be confined to Ukraine alone. The world watched, taking measure of their own vulnerabilities and alliances. The era of hybrid war had entered a new, unforgiving phase. Military academies updated their curricula overnight. Governments ordered urgent reviews of critical infrastructure protection, and think tanks debated the implications for global stability. The age of unbreakable fortresses has ended. Are you ready to face a new era of warfare, one where even the strongest walls offer no guarantee of safety? The question is not abstract. It is immediate, pressing, and personal for every nation. November of 2025 shattered more than concrete. When Russia destroyed Ukraine's main intelligence directorate headquarters, the world witnessed the death of the myth. No command center, no matter how fortified, is truly safe. It was a strike felt far beyond Kyiv, a moment that forced every strategist to confront a chilling new order. For years, Western defenses seemed untouchable. Yet in a single, orchestrated attack, Russia proved dominance is no longer about bunkers or barriers. It is about mastering information, synchronizing action, and having the nerve to redraw the boundaries of conflict. The operation was not just about firepower. It was the audacity to rewrite the rules and force the enemy onto unfamiliar ground. This was no reckless act or media spectacle. It was a surgical blow, aimed with precision to decapitate the nerve center of Ukraine's hybrid warfare machine. What followed was chaos. Networks unraveled, covert operations stalled, and the very architecture of psychological and electronic warfare began to crumble. But the true lesson was global. Deterrence in the 21st century is forged by speed, intelligence, and technological daring, not by static lines or inherited pride. The stakes could not be higher. Leaders who cling to outdated doctrines now risk everything, not only their security, but the very survival and credibility of their institutions. In this new reality, where data is a weapon and seconds decide fate, arrogance or ignorance is fatal. Misreading hybrid threats or underestimating the reach of modern intelligence can mean instant, irreversible loss, not embarrassment, but the forfeiture of national destiny. The GUR headquarters was meant to be the crown jewel of covert power, layered in secrecy and Western technology, insulated by confidence in its invulnerability. Its fall is a warning burned into the world's memory. Today's most vital assets are at constant risk, threatened by adversaries who blend espionage, cyber attacks, and precise strikes into a single, devastating force. No place is truly safe. Only fleeting moments of security remain, measured by how quickly and deeply one adapts. This new order demands that every nation rethink the foundations of defense. Victory will not belong to those with the thickest walls, but to those who evolve fastest, who embrace intelligence, technology, and strategy as living, shifting tools. In the battles ahead, survival will favor not the largest, but the most agile and relentless learners. As the smoke clears over Kyiv, illusions about security crumble. The rules have changed forever. The only question left, who will adapt and who will gamble their future on the hope that their strongholds are still untouchable? So what can be done? What practical steps can nations, organizations, and even individuals take to avoid the fate of the GUR headquarters? First, embrace redundancy. The era of single points of failure is over. Just as banks maintain multiple data centers in different regions, intelligence agencies must distribute their assets, leadership, data, and critical systems across multiple secured locations. In the Second World War, the Allies famously scattered their code-breaking operations across several secret sites, ensuring that even if Bletchley Park was destroyed, the work could continue elsewhere. Second, invest in adaptive defense. Static walls and routines invite disaster. Modern defense requires constant evolution, rotating security protocols, unpredictable movement of key personnel, and randomized drills. The Israeli Defense Forces regularly update their base defenses and never allow the same procedure to be repeated 2 days in a row. For individuals, this means changing passwords frequently, updating security software, and never relying on the same habits to protect critical information. Third, cultivate a culture of skepticism and resilience. Overconfidence is the enemy of survival. Every successful organization must encourage questioning, red teaming, and simulated attacks to probe for weaknesses before the enemy does. The U.S. military's tradition of aggressor squadrons, units that simulate enemy tactics in training, can be adopted by intelligence services worldwide to test their own readiness. Fourth, diversify intelligence sources. Relying too heavily on a single stream, be it human, electronic, or satellite, invites blind spots. The most successful operations in history have been those that triangulate information from multiple, independent channels. In the Cuban Missile Crisis, U.S. analysts confirmed Soviet missile sites in Cuba by combining aerial photos, intercepted radio traffic, and tips from informants on the ground. Fifth, prepare for rapid recovery. Disaster is not always avoidable, but resilience can turn a crippling blow into a temporary setback. Pre-planned crisis management protocols, secure backup communications, and leadership succession plans are essential. After the September 11th attacks, U.S. agencies rapidly reconstituted command centers and re-established lines of communication, enabling a coordinated response within hours. Finally, never stop learning. The pace of technological change means that what works today may be obsolete tomorrow. Nations must maintain a culture of continuous education, research, and adaptation. The organizations that thrive in the coming era will be those that learn faster, not those that simply build higher walls. The destruction of the GUR headquarters is a tragedy, but also a lesson written in fire. Adapt, diversify, and never trust in invulnerability. The next conflict will not be won by those who hide behind fortresses, but by those who can see beyond them, anticipate the unthinkable, and act with speed and imagination. As you watch this unfold, ask yourself, are you ready to face a world where security is a moving target and the only certainty is change? Because in this new era, only the relentless will survive, and the debt of unanswered questions will be paid, one way or another, by those who refuse to adapt.